really, we build plants today for peak. That's what systems always were traditionally over the years. And everybody out there who's got a plant has pretty much the same problem. So in my particular case, it's built to do NFL football on Sundays, 17 weekends a year, right? That's our maximum. And we use it, every ounce of it. But I can tell you on a Tuesday night when there's prime time, if we're at 10% utilization, I'll be surprised. And there are various areas. Post-production is different than play-out, of course, and things of that nature. But our utilization is really pretty low, relatively speaking. I would guess an average utilization in our plants is 40%. Right. Now, of course, to be fair, I'm assuming overnights and things. You might say that's not reasonable to expect people to work overnight. So factored out, we might get to 50% or something. But the utilization is low.
So, John, is it a good idea if you get into sports? If you've got your own playout facility, 400 channels. Are you looking forward to a low utilization future for?
I'm gonna learn from Richard.
If you do the other 17 weekends, we can
work there.
There you go.
There's a business to see that.
17 days, maybe.
M&A, right here.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, look,
It's all part of the service, guys.
I think Richard's point is right, that, traditionally, we've built for that maximum problem. Discovery, not being in the sports business till, I guess, a few years ago, we did face similar challenges when I think about transcoding engines, when I think about, moving assets to our various VOD and OTT platforms. If you got to get it there quick, there was no choice but to buy another device. And I guess at some point in this conversation, we'll get to how that's going to change in the future. Not as dramatic for us, but we feel the same pain.
What have you had to do to get out to all of those platforms in terms of re-engineering the media supply chain factory?
I think we look at everything as media now. And even in terms of how we're organized, it's the network operations, the distribution operations, the engineering, it's for everything. And also in our processes, how do you do that one-to-many instead of doing the rework and building, not having the utilization where you need it, that you're just building for that VOD platform or you're just building for broadcast.
How much was that? You when we talked before, you talked about a holistic organization. How much was it costing you, maybe on a percentage basis, all of that rework stuff in terms of time, in terms of what you had to do, just with a different economic model today?
I don't think it's just cost. It's also how people grow and learn. When you look at if a person's just learning that broadcast side, and we've got all these other things happening in our own plant, in the industry. So it's just as much the cost savings as it is in terms of helping people grow.
My engineering teams are now one engineering team. My network guys are one network guy. We don't think about broadcast and email anymore. And it's not easy to do. And it takes, I think, a lot of coaching and a lot of guidance from leadership to let people know that, and it takes investment to train people and give them the opportunity to grow. And I think you have to find the right people in your organization to do that. Not everyone can do it, unfortunately for them. But when you find the right ones, hug them, because they're really special people.
Same for you, Richard.
I was going to say the Ericsson presentation a few minutes ago, I thought was really dramatic, where he was changing out roughly 15% of his plant, or his people rather, plant people. What do I know? Changing them out every year, and we don't do that. I admit. It sort of struck me as, geez, maybe there's something to be said for that I need to look into. Not that it's going to be pleasant. And of course, I'll probably be the first guy on the list, but whatever. But it is a real problem. We need new thinking, new ways of approaching things that are not necessarily better. They're different because we have different business needs, right? And so our people need different skills than they had before. I'll take the extreme example of we needed people who could go up and fix any videotape machine once. Well, if I ask the audience here, I bet there are not 100 videotape machines in the entire group here anymore, right? So those guys have to learn new skills, and we indeed have made a really strong effort to try to train those people, but not everybody can make that grade.
there just aren't that many people that have those types of skills.
And I think it's one, retraining the individuals you have, giving them the opportunities, giving them the stretch assignments. It's also, we've got a lot of, we look at operations analysts that we can bring in as junior level folks and give them the training. It also gives reverse mentoring because they're teaching a new way of working, a new way of problem solving, and even how they look at technology versus how we've been trained. So it's a lot of that. And then what better time to be in this industry? I mean, I always say, if you want to be an engineer, come to TV, broadcasting, media now. It's just as sexy, it's just as great as Silicon Valley. And you get to be at the forefront.
The four of us sit in a pretty interesting place. I mean, this is, when you look out, and I think it was you referred to it in some of your slides, and I think the guys previously referred to it. You know, this industry has been built on a significant number of very small vendors. And I don't take, lightly, when I make a decision to not work with someone, what that could potentially do to those companies. And I think that's, it's unfortunate. That's how this business was built. But that said, there are a lot of companies that have allowed us to do things in, the past 5 or 10 years that were pretty revolutionary. Unfortunately, they may not have the scale to make that transition.
And just like we've talked about here, sometimes you just have to make a decision at a given point in time, and you buy the best technology and the best solution that you can find. And even though something's coming down the road, you got to do what you got to do, right? In our case, since playout wasn't necessarily an option, and quite honestly, because Disney and Vince were really pioneering in that, it seemed like, why duplicate that? We're going to go another place. And we chose to go to the core, and the fundamental reason was maybe because, as you said, I'm involved with the Video Service Forum, and they're about transmission and moving stuff around. Maybe that was part of it. But what I really think is the value of IP systems for us is what I like to call them being format agnostic. That's a huge benefit. All the other benefits of agility and the list that you always see, and I find it interesting that I don't often see this on there, but the idea now is I'm going to put a pipe in, and that pipe can, within reason, expand as technology allows, but I can put anything on it. I can put video, audio, metadata, consumer information, you name it, I can move stuff around on that. And although we could do it on coax, remember SDTI and all these things, that was really hard. And look, we're all sitting around now. Most of us have plants where if we're doing UHD, we've got 4 coaxes going to everything. That's clearly not sustainable, and nobody does think that. But am I going to rip all that out and put in, 12G coax, and then, I don't know, 5 years from now when 8K comes along, rip that out and put in 25? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. The other huge advantage of this being agnostic is it's also flexible. So we're not there yet, but once we get to software-defined networking, and Larry touched on this, I guess. But once we have the ability to completely, on a dynamic basis, essentially re-architect our plants, so when the crazy producer comes in or the crazy business guy comes in and says, "We got a new business, we got to do it in 2 weeks." I mean, up to now, all of us do is we run out, we get the catalog off the shelf, we order a bunch of boxes, we bolt it in the rack. All right, we're a little better, we're moving to the cloud, okay, so we'll cloud implement it, but. Again, not sustainable in the current business environment that we've heard talked about today. We've got to be able to do this kind of stuff. So IP in the core to us was just really crucial. And since there wasn't a lot of work being done in that, we just chose to go that direction.
Look, I think I think it's an interesting, to the last thing I talked about, I think we're still living in that world of getting there. I'm very focused on getting there, but I am erring very much towards the cloud future.